And then tomorrow back up in the mid 80s with a north wind at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Temperatures stay.
Good morning, my friend. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. Great to have you along this morning. Just getting ready to get underway. We got a lot of things coming up today. I'll tell you about them in moments. Again, thanks for being here. Hit the like button if you would. I really appreciate it. It's incredibly helpful. So thanks so much. All right, here we go.
The Doctor of Discernment is on the air.
I love the Greg Belfrage Show.
I've been listening to you for years, Greg. Thanks for all you do and keeping us informed.
You sound a little taller on radio. Dispensing a daily dose of common sense. No prescription required.
Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser. Americans play to win all the time.
I don't believe in a no-win scenario.
This is the Greg Belfrage.
Good morning, my friend. The marketplace of ideas is open. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. It's great to have you along this morning. We got a lot of things that are coming up this morning. Telling you more about that coming up in just moments. Let's start with the big stories. We've got New York City Mayor Eric Adams indicted by a grand jury yesterday. This is a federal investigation into Adams. The indictment was sealed, and he is pushing back against this, and he is facing numerous calls to resign. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York calling for him to resign, as are others. A New York City Council member, Tiffany Caban, also an assembly member. But Ocasio-Cortez said, I do not see Mayor Adams can continue governing New York City. She didn't see how he can do it, she said. The flood of resignations and vacancies are threatening government function. Nonstop investigations will make it impossible, she said, to recruit and retain a qualified administration. For the good of the city, he should resign. So that's what she said. And there is, again, he is now being indicted on federal criminal charges. Adams said, I always knew that if I stood my ground for New Yorkers, that I would be a target. And a target I became. If I am charged, I'm innocent, and I will fight this with every ounce of my strength and spirit, Adams said. And again, I think this New York City comptroller said the most appropriate path forward is for him to step down so that New York City can get the full focus of its leadership demands. So you've got a number of people who are saying he ought to he ought to step down as a result of this. But at least as of now, not showing any indication that he will do that. That's a very big story. Also, we had Vice President Kamala Harris, who was on MSNBC. She did a sit-down interview with MSNBC's Stephanie Rule last night. And Washington Examiner has a number of the big takeaways from the interview. She defended her economic agenda. So she gave a speech outlining her policies on growing the middle class at the Economic Club of Pittsburgh. And she has, in some polls, then eaten into the advantage that Trump enjoys on the economy. Again, I just think the reality of a lot of these situations. So she reiterated her proposals, among them not raising taxes on anyone making less than $400,000, expanding the child tax credit, creating 3 million new housing units for rent, helping first-time home buyers with $25,000 for a down payment. And then she, of course, went after Donald Trump during the interview and how he would handle the economy. She slammed his position on high tariffs on corporations that move their business out of the United States. The Biden administration has generally kept the tariffs. Trump has talked about this at length about, going after them if they're moving jobs out of the country, in particular, going after these companies and so on. So Kamala Harris said, well, part of it is you don't just throw around the idea of just tariffs across the board, and that's the problem with Donald Trump. I say this in all sincerity. He's just not very serious about how he thinks about some of these issues. And one must be serious and have a plan, any real plan. Yeah, again, we're waiting for yours. It's just constant criticism of Trump. We're waiting for your plan. And she just refuses. So it doesn't matter who she's being interviewed by. It really is. She's just not going to be forthcoming. So she went after Trump. And that she said, one must be serious and have a plan, any real plan that's not just about some talking point ending in an exclamation at a political rally, but actually putting the thought into what will be the return on the investment, what will be the economic impact on everyday people. Okay, what is that going to do for you? I mean, what is, what is she saying there? This is just, these people, because they're moving their lips, they think they've got ideas of substance. It's just absolutely incredible. So once again, we heard her talking about her time at McDonald's. Harris suggesting Trump is a not a touch billionaire. I don't know, he's at McDonald's a lot. She said, part of the reason I even talk about having worked at McDonald's is because there are people who work at McDonald's in our country who are trying to raise a family. And I think part of the difference between me and my opponent includes our perspective on the needs of the American people and what our responsibility then is to meet those needs. So she's going to the U.S. southern border. She says that women can trust her. Donald Trump had said recently that he would protect women in the wake of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. But then, of course, Harris then reminds viewers it was Trump that appointed the three conservative justices that helped strike down Roe. She said Donald Trump is also the person who said women should be punished for exercising a decision that they rightly should be able to make about their own body and their own future. Really, Donald Trump has said that. I follow these events and I follow what people are saying incredibly closely. I have never heard that. I mean, that's just absolute untruth. That's just, these people lie. It's just incredible. Also, as we are talking about Kamala Harris, she promised a middle class tax cut as part of her opportunity economy during the speech that she gave in Pittsburgh yesterday. The American people face a choice between two fundamentally very different paths for our economy. I intend to chart a new way forward and grow America's middle class, she said. Donald Trump intends to take America backward to the failed policies of the past. He has no intention to grow our middle class. So she trying to reposition herself that she's taking a very pragmatic kind of view, and And then she repeated her proposals of extending the child tax credit, offering $25,000 for new home buyers, extending the tax credit for startup businesses to $50,000, and that's it. No new plans she talked about that. That's it. The Harris said Trump has no intention to grow the middle class, only interested in making life better for himself and people like himself and the wealthiest of Americans. Again, I have asked you, how were you doing when Donald Trump was president? How were you doing? How was your family doing? How were the people that you knew doing? How was business? What kind of prices were you paying? It really boils down to a lot of these issues. This whole opportunity economy. What in the hell is she even talking about? It's many of us. It's like, what? I think the reality is just right in front of us, and it has been all along. Also, the president actually made an appearance on The View yesterday. That was rich. And one point, Whoopi Goldberg was comparing Donald Trump to a bug. And she said he was like a bug. He just kept being there, she said. She'd been making buzzing noise then. And so the camera cut to Biden. He slaps the table, and, the audience and the host laugh. Then another segment featuring Biden host Joy Behar said to Biden, Trump is now blaming rhetoric from you, that you inspired these two assassination attempts after all of the calls for violence. Take them out, all the rest of it. You know what it is. Don't you think that is just unbelievable? And what do you say to that? She said. And the president said, well, I think he is the most unusual president. And look, Trump is not a lot of social redeeming value there. And I thought, boy, who are you to talk? Seriously, you take a look at him and his family and what they've been involved with and what we've learned. It's just absolutely incredible. Pointing a finger at somebody else, and you've got all those other fingers pointing back at yourself. So he said, Trump is not a lot of social redeeming value there. But here's the thing. He really does not believe in democracy and the guardrails our system is set up for the abuse of power. And I just, wow. How do you react to that? It's just other than this is beyond. These people looking in the face and just absolutely lie and saying this and then denigrate Donald Trump and misrepresent what he's about I'm not saying Donald Trump is perfect. There are a lot of things that I think that I would prefer Donald Trump wouldn't talk about, or that I would love to see him focus more on. But I'm still struck by that image of Trump with the woman giving her $100 in the grocery store this week. I just think that says a lot about Donald Trump, giving her $100 and saying, hopefully this will help, you and your family. Talking to the shop owner. It was a great conversation with the shop owner who was talking about what the economy has done and his buying, his prices that he's having to charge to his customers and all of that. So much more meaningful than the president appearing on The View and engaging in, it's just absolutely incredible. There is this I find interesting. story this morning from Newsmax. The majority of suburban women in 4 swing states are skeptical about Kamala Harris' ability to handle the economy. It's a new poll conducted by the Place America First Super PAC. 72% of suburban women say the economy is their top priority. What have I been saying for months? It's the economy, stupid. An almost identical number, 70%, say that Harris lacks viable solutions for the economy compared to Donald Trump. So you get 70% of suburban women saying Kamala Harris just doesn't have the, and again, she's not able to articulate anything in particular, anything specific that is going to make the lives of families, other than a couple of things that she just keeps repeating. She's just unable to articulate plans to be able to make life better for Americans. That's pretty crazy. Poll also showed Trump gaining ground among key voting demographics. 65% of English-speaking Hispanics say they were more inclined to vote for Trump. 67% of veterans saying Trump would be better at issues affecting veterans than Harris. Also coming up on the program this morning, Iowa Senator Joni Ernst is going to join us. She will join us at around 7:35 this morning. And there are a number of things that I want to talk about with her. I would love to get her take on this bipartisan Senate report on the U.S. Secret Service's handling of that first assassination attempt of Donald Trump. The full report was released yesterday and detailed a number of different things. Report revealed that the counter sniper team leader warned counter snipers by email, not radio communications or mobile text messaging, about the shooter with a rangefinder. Did not urge agents to keep Trump off the stage at the rally. Just a lot of failings here. So it'll be interesting to get the take of Iowa Senator Joni Ernst. Ernst also here was on Newsmax this week talking about John Deere going to Mexico. John Deere announced they'll be cutting 600 jobs from plants in Illinois and Iowa and moving those positions to Mexico. And so Ernst was on Newsmax talking about this. She said her heart goes out to those affected employees. And she said this is a result of the disastrous economy under Kamala Harris and President Joe Biden, when we have manufacturers that feel they need to move our jobs to other countries because the economy is bad. It hurts everyone. So she said the loss of these jobs in Iowa and Illinois are going to reverberate then throughout the Midwest. She said the workers, they put their dollars right back into their home communities. I would love to see John Deere keeping these jobs in Iowa. They've invested so much in the infrastructure in Iowa and Illinois, and yet this economy is forcing them to look elsewhere for cheap labor because they can't keep up with Biden and Harris regulations, she said. So that was on Newsmax this week. We will visit with Iowa Senator Joni Ernst coming up this morning at 7:35, so a little over an hour from now. She is going to join us. Also coming up this morning, we will talk about Amendment H. It's one of the things that you and I will be voting on this fall. Amendment H is the ballot measure that would create a top 2 primary system in South Dakota. And coming up this morning, I'll be joined by both a Republican and a Democrat who are opposed to Amendment H. They're trying to encourage you not to vote for Amendment H. State Representative Bethany Soy and Dan Allers of Del Rapids will join me coming up this morning. They will be here at 8:05 to talk about this. And it's kind of an interesting, as I was very intrigued when I hear from, I received an email from Bethany Soy saying that, Dan Allers and I have been going around and appearing together in opposition of Amendment H. We would love to have a chance to talk to you about it. And I'm like, absolutely. So very, very interesting when you've got a Republican and a Democrat who both say vote no on Amendment H. So that's the top two primary system, which is being pushed. So we'll talk about that coming up this morning. One of the other big stories is Hurricane Helene. A lot of preparations going on in Florida. Hurricane Helene will strike Florida as a Category 3 hurricane, and perhaps worse. And officials talking about it are taking it very, very seriously. We'll have more information for you coming up from Fox News Radio about that. Thank you so much for starting your day with the Greg Belfrage Show. This hour is brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
Hamp and Robbins, weekdays at 2. Callow, News Talk 1320, 107.9.
It is going to be a busy day today. Thank you so much for letting me join you. Appreciate it. We got trending stories coming up here in just a moment. Let's see if I make sure I didn't screw up my timing, which I usually do.
Stock up on delicious quality meats from Renner Corner Meats. Fresh meat, pork, and boneless, skinless chicken breasts are always ready to pick up. They're now taking deer, antelope, and elk for processing. And try their famous homemade real beef jerky. Renner Corner Meats in Renner and RennerCorner.com. Get ready to hoist your stein.
Oh, we'll be good. All right. See what's going on in the newsroom here.
We'll be celebrating German culture with delicious food, live music, and plenty of beer. From traditional Bavarian fare to lively polka bands, there's something for everyone. Except kids. This is strictly 21 and over. So grab your lederhosen and join us for a day of feasting, dancing, and fun. Oktoberfest, Saturday, October 5th at the Elride Shrine in Sioux Falls.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-345-2789. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-345-2789. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-345-2789. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-345-2789. 800-345-2789 or biglou.com.
Mostly sunny skies today for the Sioux Falls area. Our afternoon high temperature 84 with a south wind at 10 to 20. Clear skies tonight, low temperature 53. Tomorrow, you guessed it, more sunshine, dry weather.
And currently in Sioux Falls at 6:30, we've got clear skies, 52. Joe Bowman is in the Kello.com News Center. He's got a look at headlines coming up. You're listening to the Greg Belfrage Show on Kello. Okay.
4 hurricane today. Landfall is expected later tonight along the Panhandle Big Bend region with up to a 20-foot storm surge, hurricane force winds, and over a foot of rainfall. That's Fox senior meteorologist Janice Dean. A Manhattan grand jury indicted New York City Mayor Eric Adams on federal criminal charges. Morgan McKee with Fox 5 New York.
From what I'm hearing from sources is that this indictment could be tied to the federal investigation looking into whether Mayor Eric Adams accepted illegal campaign donations in part from the Turkish government.
Adams says he's not going to step down.
Make no mistake, you elected me to lead this city, and lead it, I will.
The indictment going to be unsealed later today. America's listening to Fox News.
Kello News Time, 6:31. I'm Joe Bowman in the Kello.com News Center. Legendary Vikings quarterback Tommy Kramer has announced he's been diagnosed with dementia. Kramer made the announcement on social media yesterday, following Brett Favre's announcement he has Parkinson's. Kramer says he was diagnosed with dementia a year ago and that he could have anywhere from 2 to 10 years. He says he remains hopeful and plans to continue engaging with the fans. The wife of a missing Sioux Falls man says she believes he is still out there. Tyler Weathersby has been missing now for over 3 weeks since he left his home for a walk back on September 4th. Mona Lisa Perez says she thinks Tyler is still alive and that wherever he is, he may need help. She also said Tyler was under some type of stress leading to the disappearance. Perez claims there's 2 people who talked to him that day but have not yet come forward. Investigators say they have exhausted all their leads but continue to work the case. They're looking for people who can be a calm voice in the midst of a storm. Metro Communications in Sioux Falls answered a total of 350,000 incoming calls last year, including 120,000 emergency calls. Administrator Amy Chase is putting out the call that Metro needs help.
For that role, we're looking for individuals who want to serve and make an impact on their community by walking not only callers, but sometimes our responders through intense crisis situations and oftentimes the worst days of their lives.
Chase says candidates must be at least 18 years old, have a high school degree, and to be eligible for law enforcement certification. Members of the South Dakota Air National Guard are being deployed to the Middle East due to the rising conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. A detachment of 150 soldiers were deployed on Tuesday. Officials say the deployment is part of a scheduled rotation to sustain military forces in that region. The U.S. already has about 40,000 troops on the ground. And the Twins grabbed an 8-3 win over the Miami Marlins last night. Game 3 against Miami starts tonight. From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Joe Bowman.
The news never stops. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
Mostly sunny skies today for the Sioux Falls area. Our high temperature 84 with a south wind at 10 to 20. For tonight, mainly clear skies, a low at 53, and then tomorrow back up in the mid-80s with a north wind at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Temperature staying in the 80s as we head into your weekend. That's your weather update from the Storm Center at Kettleland TV. I'm meteorologist Brian Karstens.
If it matters to you, you'll hear it on Kello. All day, every day. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
This story made me glance twice. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, says his creation, ChatGPT, will soon be smarter than any person on Earth. Can that be true? I'm Kim Commando for LinkedIn Jobs. Post a job for free and find qualified candidates quickly at linkedin.com/Kim. Okay, there's a problem with Altman's logic. What constitutes being smart? Possessing lots of knowledge is a must. Altman says that ChatGPT will have digested all human knowledge in about 2 years. Most of it has been more or less taken without permission of the people who created it. So much of what ChatGPT tells you is stolen and plagiarized. So the algorithm is not smart enough to know that it's stealing and plagiarizing. Without the ability to understand and experience happiness, joy, sorrow, grief, rage, forgiveness, compassion, and empathy, it's not very smart. In fact, without all these qualities, AI is very likely to hurt us all one day soon. Enter to win a brand new iPhone 16 right now at winfromkim.com. When hiring for a small business, you want quality professionals who are right for the role and your team. That's why I use LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to find the right people for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn is not just another job board. You get access to LinkedIn's vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, many of whom you won't find anywhere else. That's why it's simply the best place to hire. LinkedIn does all that while making the process simple and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. In fact, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that as a small business, you might not have the time or resources to spend on hiring. That's why LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make it simpler, like the new feature to help write job descriptions. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Kim. That's linkedin.com/Kim to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. That's linkedin.com/Kim.
The Kim Commando Show, live Saturday mornings at 9. Kello News Talk 1320.
Okay, there we go.
107.9.
The Kello Hotline is brought to you by Tires. Your give you
Okay.
automotive store. Financing programs available to Sioux Falls locations. Again, coming up just after 8 this morning, Bethany Soy and Dan Allers are going to join me, and we'll be talking about Amendment H. So that's the top two candidates, tiered kind of voting. So they're both opposed to it. So we'll visit with them about that coming up this morning. They, again, and I find that very interesting. You've got a Republican and a Democrat, and they've been out there. Bethany Soy tells me they have been speaking together in opposition to Amendment H. So they are going to be on the program coming up this morning just after 8. And be a lot of, I'll leave it to you to decide. But they're both think it's going to be harmful to their parties. And I appreciate that point of view. So we'll visit with them coming up this morning. All right. Back to work.
So whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Okay, some mornings you might not have that get up and go.
But at least you can get up and know.
The Greg Belfrage Show, with insightful opinions on the latest stories and frequent weather updates. It'll get you in the know while you're getting ready to go. Kello.
6:38. Clear skies, 52. Good morning and welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. It's great to have you along this morning. This hour brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
What's trending now?
Add them on Facebook.
Let the tweeting begin. The hashtag does that. News and views from Belf's News Gallery.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams has been indicted on federal criminal charges, according to the New York Times. And there are a number of people now who are already calling for Adams to step down. So federal agents seized phones from several high-ranking city officials, including one of Adams' top aides, the police commissioner, and the school's chancellor. And both the police commissioner and school chancellor have since resigned as a result of this. So the FBI confiscated Adams' electronic devices. They are looking into political fundraising misconduct during the mayoral campaign. So there are a number of investigations that they are undertaking. Also trending this morning, New York Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is calling on Adams to step down. She said, "I do not see how Mayor Adams can continue governing New York City. The flood of resignations and vacancies are threatening government function. nonstop investigations will make it impossible to recruit and retain a qualified administration for the good of the city. He should resign, she said on social media. Also, Kamala Harris doing another, her second solo interview. And she chose MSNBC anchor Stephanie Ruhle for the interview. Ruhle hosts a show called The 11th Hour, and it's late in the evening. So she, Washington Examiner says that Ruhle recently was on Bill Maher's show, and she defended Harris' choice to evade press interviews. You know, Ruhle said, there are some things you might not know her answer to. And in 2024, unlike in 2016, for a lot of the American people, we know exactly what Trump will do, who he is, and the kind of threat he is to democracy. Wow. So no wonder that's where Kamala Harris is going for her second sit-down interview, which occurred yesterday. So trending stories, again, sometimes lag behind a little bit. Also, the vice president talking about her economic views at a policy speech in Pittsburgh and going after Donald Trump. She was there along with Mark Cuban at the Economic Club of Pittsburgh. She said her economic philosophy is rooted in her middle-class upbringing, while Trump's comes from a gilded path to wealth. For Donald Trump, our economy works best if it works for those who own the big skyscrapers, not those who build them, not those who wire them, not those who mop the floor. Again, what's her plan? You know, she got a lot of insults on why Donald Trump is, going to be harmful to the country. We're just kind of sitting here going, yeah, but what's your plan? What are you going to do? Also, Hurricane Helene could strengthen to a Category 4 storm as it's racing toward Florida. So Hurricane Helene now threatens to become the strongest storm to hit the U.S. in over a year. It will make landfall later today. And Florida Governor Ron DeSantis declared a state of emergency on Tuesday. Several areas remain under hurricane warnings. Florida's Big Bend is going to see the worst of the storm surge. And yesterday, Florida Senator Rick Scott told residents in the path of the storm surge, he said, in the Big Bend, we're talking about possibly 18 feet of storm surge. I'm a little over 6 feet. That's 3 times my height. None of us are living that. You're not going to survive, said Senator Scott. So they're really trying to move people and encourage people in the midst of that. And best wishes to one of my listeners, Chuck, who's down in Florida, and he listens routinely every day, emails me quite often. Very nice guy. He was already making plans as of yesterday. Also, the U.S. has unveiled its plan to deploy additional troops to the Middle East. It's in response to what we've seen going on there in the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. So there's a lot of concern about a broader war in the region. And so additional U.S. military personnel are being deployed this week. The Chinese military test fired an intercontinental ballistic missile into the Pacific on Wednesday. It's their first known launch of an ICBM in decades. So they launched the ICBM carrying a dummy warhead, according to the Chinese Ministry of Defense. And this is in reaction to, the president had been talking about the U.S. relationship with Japan and South Korea. And so China then fired this ICBM. Also, Melania Trump has sat down for an interview with Ainsley Earhardt, a Fox News channel. And in fact, that interview is airing this morning on Fox and Friends. So this is the former First Lady's first interview in more than 2 years. She's talking about her new book, Melania, as well as the presidential campaign and the assassination attempts on Donald's life. So she is on Fox and Friends this morning, and they're playing segments of I've seen several segments already this morning of the interview, kind of breaking it up into bite-sized pieces for Fox and Friends viewers. In a recent interview, Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, was critical of Senator J.D. Vance. Zelensky, in a conversation with the New Yorker, oh joy, that was published on Sunday, voiced his concerns about Vance's views on the ongoing Ukraine conflict. And he was troubled by Vance's suggestion that Ukraine should make sacrifices to end the war. Zelensky then said the idea that the world should end this war at Ukraine's expense is unacceptable, he said. I don't take Vance's words seriously because if this were a plan, then America is headed for global conflict. It will involve Israel, Lebanon, Iran, Taiwan, China, as well as many African countries, he said. So he encouraged Vance to study the history of World War II, underlining the perils of appeasement. I don't know J.D. Vance to be much of a appeaser. I mean, do you? Is that the way you look at it? So that's what Zelensky said. That story's trending this morning. I mentioned this to you yesterday, Donald Trump being briefed this week about real and specific threats from Iran. And this is threats to Trump and his campaign. And Trump's campaign communications director said Iran's aim to assassinate Trump is part of the Islamic Republic's efforts to destabilize and sow chaos in the United States. Intelligence officials have identified that these continued and coordinated attacks have heightened in the past few months. He said, make no mistake, the terror regime in Iran loves the weakness of Kamala Harris and is terrified of the strength and resolve of President Trump. He will let nothing stop him or get in his way to fight for the American people. Also trending this morning, the Senate has unanimously passed a bill bolstering presidential candidates' Secret Service protection. So in the weeks where we saw back-to-back assassination attempts then against Donald Trump, the Senate unanimously passed the legislation. We've been talking about that the last few days, but it's trending this morning. Also, Sean Diddy Combs has been moved to a section of the New York City jail where Sam Bankman-Fried is being held. So he's being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. It's a federal jail that's got a reputation for violence and poor care. There's also a story, a former inmate who is saying that a source close to the Combs investigation believes that he may not be eating in jail because he's paranoid and scared, he's saying. Levine said this is Larry Levine, says there's people out there that he has things on that do have a substantial amount of money. Imagine if someone paid someone off on the inside to actually poison his food, give him a heart attack, and then he dies, and no one would really think anything of it. So that may be one of the reasons that he's not eating. And that story is trending. Also, for those of you those of you who follow college sports, Matthew Sluka, who enrolled at Las Vegas after 4 years at Holy Cross, he quit the team. UNLV. He was the quarterback, and he quit on Tuesday, claiming undisclosed commitments to him were not fulfilled. And it's a big NBC News says this could be the first midseason pay dispute in college football history. So college athletes are not directly paid by universities, but the NCAA opened the door for players to profit from their name, their likeness, their image, and all of this. And there are a lot more details regarding that story if you're so inclined, but it's trending. Also, Speaker Mike Johnson hosted a delegation from Arkansas this week. Congressional leaders unveiled a statue of Johnny Cash at the Capitol. And so Johnson dedicated the statue of Cash. It's one of the only singers inducted into both the Rock and Roll and Country Music Halls of Fame. And members of Cash's family were there. And Speaker Johnson said, when American leaders weren't speaking about these forgotten men and women, Johnny Cash was. He was reminding us that these people matter and that they too were made in the image of God and that they are part of the American history. So the statue is like 8 feet tall. It's made of bronze, depicts Cash with a Bible in hand and a guitar slung around his shoulder. Also, the messaging app Telegram has now agreed to share data for criminal investigations. This is a big policy reversal for the CEO of Telegram. And he said in a statement, we've made it clear that the IP addresses and phone numbers of those who violate our rules can be disclosed to relevant authorities in response to valid legal requests. Now, remember, the leader of Telegram, or the CEO, Pavel Durov, he was born in Russia. He's a co-founder of Telegram. He was detained by French authorities in August of this year, charged with enabling criminal activity on that platform. Also, NASA is preparing to launch its first mission to explore Jupiter's moon, Europa. Weren't we told to stay away from you? You ever seen 2010 Odyssey 2? All these worlds are yours except Europa. Attempt no landing there. Remember that? Well, NASA is giving it a shot. NASA's Europa Clipper is set to launch October 10th from NASA's Kennedy's Space Center in Florida. And They are investing about $5.2 billion into the entire life of the mission, which will span nearly 20 years. Also trending this morning, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed several gun control measures on Tuesday, solidifying California's reputation for having some of the strictest gun laws in the country. This story is trending that Donald Trump going after Stephen Colbert after Colbert said he would never have the boring Trump on his show. And so Trump went after Colbert. He said, I briefly watched an interview with Stephen Colbert on heavily government subsidized PBS and found it fascinating for only one reason. Why would they be wasting time and the public's money on this complete and total loser? Trump says. He's not funny, which he gets paid far too much to be. He's not wise. He's very boring. And his show is dying from a complete lack of viewers. Gutfeld on cable is killing him. And he went on. Trump was, you know how Trump is when he gets on a tear. And that's a look at the stories trending this morning in Belf's News Gallery. Thanks so much for starting your day with the Greg Belfrage Show. This hour is brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month. Currently, clear skies 52 at Kello.
The world comes at you pretty fast.
I want to thank you so much for starting your day with us. I really appreciate it. It's great having you here. Hope you'll return for the 4th hour of the Greg Belfrage Show coming up this morning at 9:30. So I hope to see you then. Take care.